Hello and welcome to another episode of My Backstage Pass. This is your host Lee Zimmerman, and I'm here with my producer, co-host, and good buddy Billy Hubbard. And today we're very excited to have Andy Hall as our guest. Hi Andy, how are you, sir?
Hey gentlemen, great to speak with you today. Thanks for having me.
Oh, our pleasure.
Hey, thanks for being here.
So are you based in Colorado? Is that your home base, so to speak?
It is. Yep. Yeah, I've been in Colorado about a dozen years. And it was, Nashville for a long time before that.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been around a bit, Boston before that, and grew up in upstate New York. But Colorado's been home for the last dozen years. As well as, some of our other band members, and it's
Right.
a great place to call home.
Yeah, I would imagine. Colorado seems to have been a wellspring for so much great music and so many great bands. And Andy, I got to admit, I'm a little jealous. I've always loved Colorado. I'm a little jealous that you get to enjoy those beautiful surroundings. I got to admit that. Okay. I got that out of my system.
Well, now I saw when you called that it said Knoxville.
Yes, we are in East Tennessee, and I don't want to demean. We love East Tennessee. It's beautiful. We have mountains, but your mountains kind of overshadow our mountains, so to speak. So
it's a little different. Well, I made the leap from Tennessee to Colorado, and it's been great. Although I do miss some of the things about Nashville,
mm-hmm.
The musicians namely, but
sure.
But most things suit me quite well out here.
Okay, I mean we have a little bit of mountain envy. I don't know if you're familiar with that term, but
well, it's not the size that matters,
You are right, sir. Thank you for mentioning that. I've always said that my entire adult life. Hey, what the heck? So Andy, of course, you are a member of a really a fantastic, amazing band, the Infamous Stringdusters, and I guess you've been with that band maybe 17, 18 years now.
Yeah, good. You're close. Yeah, I mean, we like to date our inception as 2005. That's when we started recording our first album, Fork in the Road, and that's when kind of all most of the current band members, everyone except Falco, joined and kind of got everything rolling. So yeah, we're 19 years in right now. And,
Wow.
So yeah, it's been a minute.
So 19 years, next year, 20 years. What are we going to do to celebrate?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, we're working on a new Stringduster original album currently. In fact, the fellas just left my house yesterday, where we wrapped up showing each other new material and new songs. So theoretically, we'll have our 10th all original studio album out for our 20th year as a band. So
wow, great anniversaries! 10th album, 20-year anniversary. That's some great significant numbers there. That's great.
It's amazing. And bands come and go, and it's hard to make them last. So it feels really cool to just know that we're still going strong, and that we still enjoy it, and we still love working on music and playing live after coming up on 20 years. It's
wow.
It's a cool thing.
Well, I mean, your band, the Infamous Stringdusters, have been so influential in a number of ways. I mean, so I don't know if you want to call it newgrass or this populist thing that's going on, but clearly you have succeeded in bringing a traditional genre into modern times and made it very contemporary, and you've been able to sort of straddle the line between the classic and the contemporary, so to speak. And I think if you were one of the first bands to really do that and to get this whole movement going. Would you say
Well,
that's correct? I mean,
yeah, I mean, it's funny, you don't think that way until you get to a certain point and you look back, and you start to speak to like young artists who are coming up, and they describe you as, they looking up to you or as being very influential. And yeah, a lot of where you feel like you fall in the music business and what you've done or your place in it is all hindsight, and for the longest time we were kind of the new young kind of new grass band.
Yep.
And there was a few people doing some things. Yonder Mountain String Band was around when we started, and they were very influential for us because they were the first like bluegrass band without drums that was kind of taking their music into like rock clubs and bigger venues and stuff. So we learned a lot from them in the production, how to put on like kind of a bigger like rock type show. They had lights and stuff. Any bluegrass band I had seen before them that didn't have like a light show or anything. It's very, very rudimentary type of show focused solely kind of on the music, and on the playing and singing, but they had brought sort of a bigger production element to it. And so we kind of learned some of that from them, but, we had all individually cut our teeth in Nashville as, for years, for a decade or more, trying to just hone this bluegrass craft. And, I don't know that too many bands had done that and then went to try and put on like sort of a rock show with that bluegrass kind of foundation.
Right.
I mean, a lot of the bands that were coming up, and then they played some bluegrass, but they just kind of, went at it as 20-year-olds and just started going for it. We started the band when I was 30, so we had already had, a decade plus of like kind of graduate school bluegrass, so to speak, in Nashville, playing for other musicians, and so there wasn't really anyone else in that sort of position, I think, when we started. But you don't really know that until, like, say, you're looking back, and there were actually probably a few other bands doing it at the time, but I don't think any of them are around anymore.
Well, I mean,
so
But I mean, I think of bands like Green Sky Bluegrass and Trampled by Turtles. I mean, it's a sort of a limited circle there, I mean, those are the bands that kind of come to mind in your footsteps. Or
and everyone's very unique. All those bands are, us and Green Sky and Trampled are all very different bands and had different pathways, but we were part of kind of a small group of bands that are still around that started back then and are still trying to make our mark on things. And all those bands have done amazing things, but yeah, it's really just cool to see the wheel turning and to see the new bands come up and continue to take what you've done and enhance it and do their thing with it. And so the circle goes, that's one really cool thing about having been around a while is you begin to see this wheel turn of influence and of new and old and all kind of, you see the new coming up and some old kind of, going down and different things. It's a great place to be, having been around for a while, because you have a bit of a broad view of the music business, and you have experience, and it's fun to see.
I mean, it's very interesting because, again, for lack of a better term, this sort of new grass genre has really led to this populist feel in terms of the attraction. There are fans that kind of get into that old Grateful Dead motif where they follow you to different venues, and they're so loyal. and devoted. It's this populist feeling. It becomes even more than the music. It's almost like a cultural phenomenon in a way, right? I mean, you know?
Yeah, and I love that. That is one of my favorite things about the music, and that's why I think like bluegrass, I think had a real appeal with like Grateful Dead fans and maybe even Fish fans. The cultural element. I mean, bluegrass has always had. It almost didn't start as professional music. It started as mountain music that families would play together at the end of the day, and for parties and for revelry and to let loose and let steam off. People had hard lives back in the day. It was rural music, and so it was really just almost solely cultural in a way. It was and slowly people began to sort of play it professionally, and Bill Monroe really solidified what bluegrass was. And but so it had that, but then a band like Grateful Dead did something with rock music where they made a cultural family phenomenon with their fans, and so they and that they developed their whole own culture. And so the mix of the two, bluegrass and rock, and with like the Grateful Dead influence and the cultural heritage of bluegrass, it all makes for a very welcoming community and something that people, I think, enjoy. And I think, bands like us have taken a lot from the Grateful Dead in for example, like changing our set list every night, where every show is different. There's a fair amount of improvisation. And so there is something different to see every night. There's something different to experience. The band is affected by the unique energy of each crowd and vice versa. And so every night is a different experience. And then people also know that they're going to see friends, maybe different friends. If they go on tour for a number of shows, different people jump on, different people jump off. They see friends. Some people, get to become better friends through the course of a tour. It's really, and I think people yearn for that connection, that in-person connection, now almost more than ever. And it's fun to be able to provide a sort of a venue for real personal connection with people in the age of the internet and sort of
real life, real connection. Yeah. We were very privileged to have on our show, on our podcast, not very long ago at all, John McEwen from the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band. And of course, the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band had a major role in bringing together the two cultures, the traditional musicians and the younger long-haired rock and rollers, with the album Will the Circle Be Unbroken? And, I see them as a major influence, and indeed the circle continues courtesy of your band in particular, Out of curiosity, I've asked this question before, but you're bringing bluegrass into the current age and, to a new audience. But at the same time, to some of the traditional bluegrass fans, how do they get it? Do they feel like, oh, these young upstarts, they're taking our music away and it's too modern for me? Do you see, is it able to mesh pretty well from the new to the old and the old fans to the new fans and that sort of thing?
Well, there is definitely some different sort of camps of bluegrass, and everyone commingles and appreciates each other, but some of that difference is cultural. There's with traditional bluegrass, particularly in the Southeast, you have a real connection to gospel music and religion and traditional like Southern culture. And that is, that's a thing. That's a very unique thing. We come from, we really didn't come from that. We have 3 New Yorkers in the band,
Yeah.
So we grew up, I played in a heavy metal band in high school, like a death
Really?
metal band, actually.
Okay.
Like I played death metal. I mean, that was what I knew. And then, began to get exposed to like blues. And then through blues, I got exposed to bluegrass and fell in love with it. But, our influences were not those traditional cultural influences that a lot of traditional bluegrass has. So we came at it kind of wild and woolly from all walks of life, and learned bluegrass as the art form, but didn't embody the culture of traditionally where it came from.
Sure.
You know
I get what you're saying.
And
yeah.
so those differences continue, and even in how the show is presented, how a traditional bluegrass show is presented is different than how, we present our show, which is, probably more in line with like how a Grateful Dead show might be presented. There's just sort of some natural, like regional cultural differences. And I think that's almost more than the musical differences. There's so many incredible, like quote unquote traditional bluegrass bands I would love our audience to hear, because they're just so incredible. But there are just some sort of regional barriers and cultural barriers that sometimes don't get crossed.
Right.
And so, I think as far as the musicians go, we're all buddies, and that's one thing I love about it is, we did do our time in Nashville and playing with, traditional bluegrass bands. I played in Earl Scruggs band for a number of years, and for a guy named Harley Allen, who's a Red Allen's son. And, so we really went to Nashville and immersed ourselves in that for the musical development in a lot of ways, but yeah, there is always some tension between traditional and progressive, and people are doing things with the music that don't fit the traditional mold, and sometimes that creates some tension. But I feel like at this point it's all kind of blown wide open, and people are doing whatever they want with a banjo or with a dobro or whatever, and it's again, with the age of like social media and the internet, we're exposed to so much so quickly that the barriers and such seem to be breaking down faster than ever.
Yeah. Andy, on one of your, I guess it's one of your older albums you guys had, I think it was Ladies and Gentlemen. It was the first time I heard you guys talking about, you went in the studio and you utilized the effects on your amps in the session, rather, I guess, I don't know if that was the first time you guys did it, but I remember you were trying to get a different soundscape or something.
Yeah. Yep, that's right.
And I remember he's talking about your background in heavy metal. That just made me think of that. So
yeah, well, it's funny. I mean, anytime it always, if I do happen to plug into an amp or maybe at a show, like use sort of a distortion effect, I get a particular rise out of it, like personally. Yeah. I like that. Not all our band members came from that. I sort of definitely represent the kind of rock aesthetic in the band, whether even with like artwork and things like that. I'm like, oh, let's get the flames and the skull, and they're like, I don't know, not really. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen. In fact, I remember the amp that I used on that session. We literally just found it in the Airbnb that we were staying in. It was like in the corner.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, let's just like try this amp. And it had probably been there a long time. The tubes were dying. So it's a tube amp. The tubes were dying. They were old. And so as the week went on, the amp just got more and more distorted because the tubes were going bad. And so like the songs that I recorded at the beginning of the week were like kind of clean, just a little edge. And that was the goal. But then by the end of the week, it happened slowly, so we didn't notice. But by the end, I was like this very distorted, like rough sound. And I was like listening back, I was like, is that okay? I guess, sure. What the heck? I don't know.
Wow.
Sounds like fun.
Now you have a new album, which is more or less a compilation. Can we call it a greatest hits? Can we call it an anthology, or can we just call it a collection of, standout songs? What should we call it?
Well, yeah. Well, I can tell you what it is called is Songs from the River. And
Yes.
what binds them all together is that, we do write a lot about nature and particularly rivers. It kind of became a bit of a joke among some of our fans that actually turned it into a drinking game. So anytime we would say river in one of our songs, they would drink because they were noticing it was happening a lot.
Yeah, they could get pretty buzzed by the end of the concert. Yeah, okay.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Depending on the set list, but so it kind of became clear to us that we obviously have a real connection to the river, to rivers. We've done week-long river rafting trips all together as a band. We've written songs about it. So we decided to sort of coalesce that theme into a compilation because I feel like it really describes a big part of us and our connection to nature as a band. And yeah, it was something. It was a compilation and an idea that we sort of realized after the fact. We never set out to just write a lot of music that, talk about nature or rivers in particular, but that's what we did that very naturally. And a lot of that came from some of our earlier days when, like I say, we did like rafting trips together, and there's a connection that you get when you spend days and days on a river. That's pretty deep and meaningful. For folks that have never done that or never really thought, most people don't really think much about a river, especially out west here where we live, where water is more scarce and rivers are very valuable. And the snow melt that feeds them and this whole process. So, that our connection to rivers became clear. Kind of through our fans, really, and then we decided, why don't we really highlight this part of us? It's being highlighted in a way by our fans, and is a thread that runs through us. And so we're gonna see how many songs we have like that. And it's a large compilation. I don't remember how many songs, maybe 25 songs, pulled from our records and our solo records. So we all have put out some solo material, and that thread runs through those as well. So. That's sort of where the concept and idea all came from.
I guess you could say a river runs through it. Has there ever been a movie by that name? I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think there.
Yeah.
I'm coming up with all kinds of
sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Too obvious.
That's it. That's
too obvious. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm thinking a river's like the ocean, The ocean does something like that. Must just be the water.
Yeah.
Some people they like, a lot of people get the ocean thing, like the connection to the ocean. They love going to the beach, being in the water. A river has that. It's like it's the earlier version of it.
Yeah,
It's like where the ocean, comes from, and there's obviously a big connection between bluegrass and nature, and that you find that in Colorado. I think a big reason we moved out here is there's this connection between like roots music and the outdoors. I think and it has to do with people looking for like authentic experiences, really. And we all have that. We like bluegrass, we like playing instruments, we like real stuff like that, and then we like being outside, fishing, rafting, whatever that sort of. So there's definitely a connection there, and we kind of live that pretty thoroughly.
That's cool.
Well, we have a song here that we want to play from the album, "Night on the River," and I think Billy's got it queued up. So we're going to play a couple of minutes of that and give folks a taste of what they can expect. So, all right.
I don't know where the money's gone. I don't know where it's gonna be. Not much to show for the work that I've done. What else would I need? A night on the river is all I need. A cool drink of water is all I need. Bottom of the barrel, you know I've had my share. It tastes like it always does, and there's no surprises there. A night on the river is all I need. A cool drink of water is all I need. When I think about old times, I laugh so hard I cry. Got turned around along the line, but I still enjoy the ride. Night on the river is all I need. A cool drink of water is all I need. A night on the river is all I
Wow.
Nice.
Wow. Good job, gentlemen. Good job. You know, one thing I really love about this new incarnation, if you want to call it, of bluegrass, is that it's so melodic. I mean, it really is, it's rousing, it's robust. Not that bluegrass wasn't, but you and your colleagues bring a sense of real melody and real song style into the music. You know, it's more than just the great playing. These are songs that capture a feeling and paint a picture, and I really like that about this this new kind of bluegrass, if you will. Steep Canyon Rangers comes to mind. That's another band that does the same thing. It's just it's so expressive on so many fronts. You know, it's a wonderful thing.
That's cool. Cool to hear you say that,
Yeah,
and
it's
that's
true.
you know that is the hope. You know that it's you know, one thing we as a band have worked hard to try and do is build up, like the song. It's like, and the playing, and use the playing to support the song, and vice versa, and you know, not let either one kind of fall back, but let them both kind of intertwine, the musicianship and the songwriting.
Yeah.
That song actually was written by Travis and a guy named Benny Galloway, who he's a hard person to describe, but he is a Colorado mountain man. I mean, this guy, he's been around for a long time. He's a fishing guide. He works in construction. He lives and works in the mountains. I think he taught Travis, who sang that song and co-wrote it and plays bass in the band. I think he taught Travis how to play bass. And he is just an incredible songwriter too. He's just a total character, one of these, it's just like kind of mountain hippie Renaissance people who, and I love the vibe of that song because it's got this like this down and out vibe in the verse where you don't have money, you don't have the thing, it's kind of like a bluesy kind of feeling, and then the chorus, all I need is a night on the river, and it's so uplifting. It's this great dichotomy between being down and out but having the uplifting chorus and vibe from the river. So it's very cool song.
That joy is what really comes through. It's what really is inspiring in such a way. When you describe the co-writer on that song, again, I'm reminded of a movie. God, what was it? Was it Robert Redford, where he's a mountain man and he goes, top of the world, and
that is Burl, Benny Galloway. He is like that. I mean, if you met him, you meet him once, you never forget him.
Cool.
He's loud, he's interesting, and he writes. He's helped us write a lot of cool songs.
Does he live off the grid? He probably does.
He does a variety of things. He's got some land in the mountains where he fishes and hangs out, and then he'll come down and do some construction projects and renovations, and then he works at Telluride Bluegrass Festival, pours beer, and I mean, it's like, he does it all.
Wow. So you guys, we need to mention you are a Grammy Award-winning band, right? You have a Grammy. That's big. Yeah. I mean, that's big.
That's true.
Did you go to the ceremony there? Did you have a speech prepared? Were you all psyched up for it?
Yeah, it's exciting. We've been 4 times. We've been nominated 4 times.
4 times.
Wow. We've gotten to go every time. We did win it one time. And it's exciting. I mean, the Grammys are cool because it recognizes not just the big mainstream acts, but like more niche styles of music, whether it's bluegrass or blues or jazz.
Yeah.
And so it's an opportunity for some sort of smaller genres to sort of get to be part of the bigger stage and the bigger world of music and all that. So it's a cool event, and you get dressed up and bring your significant other, and it's usually in Los Angeles, and it's just it's amazing. We met Mike Tyson a 2 years ago, I think, when we went there, and
he was there. Mike
just
Tyson
ran all kind of.
What was he doing there, Mike Tyson?
I don't know. That was the year it was in Las Vegas, and he just goes to big events that are happening in
that
Vegas,
might explain it.
No would tell him he couldn't.
Yeah.
Wow.
But you get to, the year we won, I think, I'm trying to think of, there was like I think a death metal band had been awarded like best like metal album of the year.
Yeah.
And we were best bluegrass album. And it was like we were being escorted through the backstage and all the interviews and stuff like with this other band from a totally another genre.
Yeah.
And it's just a great experience. It's interesting, and you're like, oh, cool. I've heard of you guys. You're great. And this, it's just a melting pot of music and appreciation, and it's cool.
Was
It's a cool
your
event.
portion televised? I know they're very selective, and I have a reason for asking that question.
No,
Oh, okay.
no, it's
Okay.
so they do. There's like 90 awards.
Yeah,
And
I know
so,
some of
you
them are
know,
the day
70
before. Yeah, I know.
Like
Yeah.
70 of them happen in the afternoon. You
Right.
know, like I
Right.
mean, you name, you know, best classical piano,
Right.
you know, performance or whatever. You know, I mean, so all that happens during the afternoon in like this large theater. And then there's like an hour or two break where everyone moves into like the arena, the Staples Center in Los Angeles, where the big televised show happens with all the
Right.
performances there. But you know, the daytime one is amazing because it has performances too, but it's performances by like John McLaughlin
Sure.
on guitar, or like honestly, to me, the music in the day is like a lot cooler. But going to get to see the big show at night is awesome, and you know, getting to see like Harry Styles or you know Madonna was there this past year and all this stuff. So it's interesting, but most happen during the day, you know.
I think maybe that's a good thing, because if you don't win, you know, they always put the losers, they show everybody on camera. And then if it's not you that wins, you have to look like, hey, that's great for that person. I'm not disappointed. And then, you know, it's like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
You know, and so
Yeah.
at that point,
Right.
you know, you didn't have to really fake it. You could say to your chums, crap, we should have won, and be as
We're
bitter
outta
as
here.
you want to be because you're not on TV. That's how I would do
See,
it.
we have the perfect level of fame, just a little bit,
Uh-huh.
you know, but not too much to where we get filmed, you know, losing the Grammys. or whatever.
Okay,
So it's
very
great.
good. And the after party must be amazing too, I would imagine, right? Elton
Yeah,
John,
the
doesn't he
after party's
host? Does
very
he
cool.
host it, or Clive Davis or something?
Well, it
Or was that the
varies, and there are
Oscars?
various ones. I mean,
Okay.
there's private ones that people host at restaurants and things.
Okay.
There's one large one that happens that all the nominees are invited to. That's a huge. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, they must spend a fortune. It's this humongous ballroom with bands and drinks and food and dancers, and you know, it's kind of a big to do. Of course, by that time, we're all pretty wiped. I mean,
Right.
it's you know, you've been going since 9-10 in the morning for 12 hours straight, and it's like you don't get to eat. There's nowhere to eat. You know, you're in this
Bummer.
theater, and then you have an hour before the night show, and there's no food. You know, you've got the concessions in the arena will be open, so you've got women in these like ball gowns like shoving nachos and like a hot dog down before they get into their seats, and it's but it's a long day, but it's fun, and it's always worth attending if you can.
Yeah.
We need to suggest that they have a category for podcast, man.
Yeah, we do.
We're
we
being
need a
left out.
podcast category.
There is no
I can't
one.
believe they don't have that.
I can't
mean,
believe that
seems
either.
Like
But
podcasts are huge.
But
Yeah, I don't
Billy put out an album last year, his debut album. And if you have any influence, I don't know, Andy Hall, you might have some influence. Let's get Billy on the ballot for next year. Okay.
yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
You know,
done deal. That's
All
all.
right.
All you had to do was ask.
Yeah.
I've
See
got
how
the
easy that
cover.
was?
that's all it takes then. Okay. Well, I have other favors
Yeah.
as well, but we'll discuss those later. Okay. Very good. You, of course, also have solo individual projects that you do, which are often quite different from what you do with the band. So I'm curious, what inspires you to sort of branch off and do your own thing? Is it that thirst for creative freedom? How do you approach that?
Yeah. I've made quite a few solo albums in the last 20 years or so, but For me, usually they're really dobro centric. That's my instrument.
That's your instrument.
The lap style slide guitar, dobro.
Yeah.
And so really it's just an opportunity for me to dive deep into like slide guitar stuff. They're usually pretty specific on that. It's like, it's really me just having a chance to push myself musically and just do dobro centric stuff, which in the band, of course, that it's a much more broad spectrum, and it wouldn't make sense to just have it all be dobro centric. So I take the opportunity, and like I say, it really, those albums are really a way for me to express my connection with my particular instrument and to write songs for my particular instrument. And kind of scratch that dobro itch, and so I just put one out last year called Square Neck Soul.
Okay.
And square neck is the neck of the dobro that I play. So like most guitars have what you would be called a round neck, where you grab it with your hand and it's held upright. A square neck is played flat and you don't wrap your hand around it. So it's like a 2x4. It's like a big square neck. Okay. So, and they also call my type of guitar a square neck, like a square neck dobro as opposed to a round neck. Gotcha. So I called it Square Neck Soul. And I wrote all the songs for it in just like a few weeks. I just wrote every day and just did this dobro intensive at my house by myself, writing for my instrument, and just writing multiple times a day. I'd sit down to write dobro music.
Wow.
And then, and so I did this whole album very kind of quick. I wrote it all in a few weeks, booked the session, recorded almost the entire album in 3 days in Nashville with some amazing players. Had Sierra Hull and Brian Sutton.
Wow.
Wes Corbett from Sam Bush's band on banjo. Ronnie McCurry on some mandolin, and Billy Strings on guitar on something. And Travis Book, our bass player, played bass and everything, did an amazing job. But
cool.
But so it was just it was a very quick thing. I wrote it all very fast, and I just wanted to write music that was sort of like fiddle tunes for dobro, where they're fairly simple melodies that all these great musicians can like solo over and stretch out on. So I didn't overcompose it. I made it like I wrote like jam session type of tunes.
Okay.
And just wanted to have a palette and a talent for the musicians to sort of interact and improvise over. But it came out really cool. I was really happy with how it came out. And I'm proud of that one, and it did exactly what I wanted it to do, which is just give me a deep dive into the dobro and push myself hopefully one step further on it.
So I'm going to ask you a very childish question. Brace yourself. But I've asked a lot of people this. When you go to do a solo album and you tell the guys, I'm going to do this on my own, do they say, hey, how come we're not on it? Your bass player was on it. But how come you don't want to do it with us?
I know. Only the bass player got asked. I hate it. I just always tell them, next time I'm definitely on the next one.
Perfect.
And I just say that every time.
Because you have very eclectic tastes. I read an interview where you name dropped Iron Maiden and Osric Tentacles. Two bands that one would not expect to come up in a conversation, with you, just out of the ordinary there, but you do seem, and you do this meditative music, that you're very fond of. So your tastes, seem to really be, in a lot of different directions when you do venture out on your own,
Yeah, why not? If it's that's how I've always been, is just interested in a lot of different stuff musically, and so I don't know, why not? Why not? If you have an interest in something, you may as well pursue it, or if you have if there's an influence that doesn't make sense, even better. That's makes you, hopefully it's like something unique. But yeah, I don't know what's going to happen next. I just go with the flow, and it just all sort of unfolds. So who knows what I'll make next.
I was just really impressed when you name dropped Osric Tentacles. I mean, I know who they are. I mean, that's kind of an obscure reference, though, but they're a very cool band. I thought it was really cool that you mentioned them,
I love that band.
Really?
I still listen to them. They're like my exercise music now, like when I work out.
Really?
It's like high energy, big guitar solos. A lot of the music, a lot of it's like pretty fast, or some of it's groove, but it's got a great beat, and it's very psychedelic. Love that band. Actually, oddly enough, the guy who is I forget his name, who's sort of like the main guy of Osric Tentacles, kind of writes all the music for this band. He was British, but moved to Colorado like some years back.
Oh, wow.
Colorado,
okay.
Which I thought was awesome. I was like, maybe I'll get to meet this guy, but I don't know. We don't tend to cross paths, but I love that music.
Well, Ian, I couldn't work out to that. We'd have a heart attack probably. We need
now,
elevator
Billy,
music.
I have my own workout music, Billy. I've never told you this before. It's a little traditional. The Jane Fonda workout. I watched the DVD, or actually the beta tapes, and work out to Jane Fonda's exercise regimen.
Wow.
Wow.
Tape is
That's
wore out.
great. Yeah.
Can you relate, Andy? Can you relate at all to that?
James Bond workout? Yeah. Because
do you remember that? You might be too young to remember that she had the workout tape. And she was in her exercise gear. Yeah, no, it's a legitimate thing.
Oh, I was kidding.
It's that workout. I don't know if it's currently sanctioned by by the doctors, but
well, I would hope it would be. I would hope that it would be. One of the things we like to do, Andy, is in our conversations here, obviously we're getting a lot of information. Yeah. We're being informed by you and talk about your music. But every now and then I like to throw in a little nugget like the Jane Fonda workout tape.
Right, the Jane Fonda workout. It's a bit of a retro.
Very retro
vibe.
We're Billy and I are a little retro, but Andy, be assured we're also professionals. Okay, yeah, we are. Yeah.
Okay, I'll have to take your word for it.
Oh, come on, we haven't proven that? Oh my God, Billy, you're gonna have to edit that part of the conversation.
Lee, I want to see you put your leg behind your neck now.
My leg behind my neck.
Isn't that what Jane Fonda is?
Yeah, well, I don't know if my wife would approve, Billy. Honestly, I don't. We can't reveal too much. We're buddies, but we can't reveal too much.
I don't want to see it.
It's just good that this is audio only. That's all I have to say.
You're right, Andy. Absolutely.
I don't want to know.
You don't want to see. It's enough for the imagination. I'm sorry. We have to even inject that. I'm sorry. Well, listen, Andy. On that note, it's been really great talking to you. I'm a big fan of the band. I have been for many, many years. I've had opportunity to see you guys and interact a bit through the press stuff that I do. And I appreciate everything you guys do, everything that you do, and keep doing it. I hope you guys are going to tour and make it over here to East Tennessee, at some point.
Yeah, we've got a gig in Chattanooga, I think, in the fall. So
okay,
a festival maybe.
All right. Well,
but come on down if you're around.
When you come, don't make fun of our mountains, okay? I know we have mountain envy.
I never would.
Okay, we really, really appreciate that, Andy. Thank you so much.
No, I never belittle a good mountain.
Good. By the way, we have rivers. You might not have so many rivers, so you might get river envy, okay?
We do. Our rivers are small.
All right, we got good rivers here. We got good rivers.
Yep.
This is such a good time to sign off.
Yeah.
Oh,
well,
man.
we forgot to ask you though, Andy. How's the best way for folks to find you? I know you got a lot going on. So I even watched some videos of your dobro techniques. That kind of got me wanting to
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Being a musician, yeah.
Yeah.
How do people find you and the band and both?
Well, social media is a good way to do it. Instagram and Facebook, the Stringdusters. We've got one of those websites, also thestringdusters.com. Yeah, there's, we're not hard to find.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, hope to see some folks out on our tours. We play quite a lot, so.
All right, man. We really appreciate your time, and big thanks to Andy Hall, the host, our host over here. That's in good shape from his working out, Mr. Lee Zimmerman. Check out Lee's new book. His latest book is 30 Years Behind the Glass about engineer Jim Gaines. And then what's another book you got, Lee, about Americana music? That was a great book, too. On Amazon. Yeah,
thank you.
Quite
along with the Jane Fonda workout tapes.
Anyway, please like, share, and subscribe to my Backstage Pass on your favorite platform. And we'll see you all next time. Happy trails.
Happy trails.